It's hard for me to talk about this without crying.
So you got two choices. Talk about it and cry, or don't talk about it.
Okay. I've had a long history of depression and suicidal feelings, and it's been labeled as bipolar. And I did listen to your tape where you talk about bipolar, and that bipolar disorder comes from so many desires. And that really resonated with me, that...
We were about to give you another label. We were about to say, would you like us to relabel your condition, strong wanter?
Strong wanter. So is strong wanter, okay, so you have these wants, and you see how the world is, and then you have this incredible disappointment because what you want isn't happening.
And now let's talk about that in very specific terms. My desire is this. The reality that I'm facing is this. The disappointment that I feel is my emotional indicator about my split energy. And it gets worse when I care so much and I can't make the world be different.
Right.
So then I feel more and more despair.
Correct.
So now you hear us say, it's not your job to make the world be different, but it is your job to find a way of feeling better. We don't know anything that anybody wants, and we know everything that everybody wants. We don't know anything that anybody wants, whether it's a condition, a reformation, an improved bodily condition, a relationship, a pile of money, a changed circumstance. There are no desires that anyone wants that are for any reason other than they think they would feel better in the having of it. So when you discover that you can feel a little better, there's going to be a sense of empowerment in that improved feeling that will get you ready for the next. And before you know it, you'll have what you want, which is to feel better.
Okay. Yes. Now, how does past experience play into all this? You know, child abuse, sexual abuse, all that stuff.
Well, it doesn't need to affect you now, but it usually does because you remember. And when you remember, you keep that vibration activated. And so it's like this personal awareness that I wanted it to be this way, but it was this way. Mm-hmm. And so you just want to try to soften your vibration a little bit by saying, well, that was then, this is now. And it doesn't help to say, well, what of the injustice of that? And what a terrible thing to happen to a child. And I should have been treated differently, because of course you should have. But you're a teacher, and we have to tell you that we know of no teachers who can teach what they don't know. And so now you've lived it, and now you know it, and now the good part is going to be climbing out of it and telling people how you did it. One emotion at a time, one improved feeling at a time.
So that suffering that you're talking about, the place of choosing death or choosing life, you know, that suicidal place is the most painful thing I know of. Why would anybody like me and other people choose that space in between?
Because you don't know better. Because you aren't in control of your vibration. Because you didn't know then what you were doing. You didn't know you had those options. You want to feel better and can't figure out how to. And so you're just experiencing the consequences of split energy without understanding what split energy is. That won't ever happen to you again.
Good.
You see, we like what you said about that powerful, unpleasant, and that's, to put it mildly, sensation of not wanting to live and not being willing to do something about it. In other words, that horrible feeling of not wanting to remain physically focused, but not knowing what to do or being ready to do something else about it. You could decide to reemerge into non-physical and line up with that, and you'd be out of that pain even before you took your own life. In other words, just the decision that I'm going to do this would relieve that discomfort. Or you could decide that you're going to stay here and feel better, and even before you do feel better, the decision that you're going to feel better would relieve that. There is so much that you can do to relieve that tension. We have to say to you that we know, And we really do. That the reason that you didn't yield to the stronger desire is because there's a stronger desire that you were born with to assist yourself first in remembering this emotional scale so that you can help others. In other words, you came forth to teach that. And we do not give that to you in any way to give you any sense of obligation. Because you can do it or not do it. There are plenty of us here doing it. In other words, the world does not need you to do it. You came forth to do it because you wanted to do it. It's sort of like when you feel wonderful, you want others to feel wonderful. And when you are accustomed to feeling wonderful, you're willing to do just about anything to help those who don't feel so wonderful to feel more wonderful. Mm-hmm. That really is the context in which you came forth. You didn't come forth to fix or save a broken world, because the world isn't broken and it doesn't need to be saved. But there are a lot of people who are born into environments that cause them to begin observing things in a certain way that gets them in the habit of offering a vibration that doesn't serve them. And they don't know how they got into it. They don't understand why they are in it. And most important, they don't know how to get out of it. When someone who's bright-eyed and bushy-tailed approaches someone who's in despair, they can't hear them. They don't even want to hear them. But when someone has been there and so still has remnants of those vibrations, you can communicate much more clearly. And so you're a teacher who will stay a step ahead of those who are wanting some guidance up the emotional scale. And just knowing about this emotional scale, you feel better. There isn't anything that you've heard us say that you don't understand on a visceral level.
Very much.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Don't try to get there all at once on every subject. That's not your job. And it's not your job to make yourself feel just fine and dandy all the time in order to lead the world. In other words, you don't owe anything to anybody, but you do want to feel better, and you should, and you can.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed.